Africa cannot afford to be left behind. It is in our interests to compete. Thank you for outlining key priority areas: digital infrastructure, building a skilled workforce, and fast-tracking our continental integration to help scale our products. It's my privilege to introduce now our high-level panel, moderated by Dr. Sanait Fiseha, VP of Global Programs at Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation. Let's welcome our distinguished panelists now to join Dr. Fiseha on stage. Dr. Fiseha, let's give her a warm round of applause. I'd like to invite our panelists to be seated in the order I introduce you, starting closest to our moderator. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Kenya's Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Mheshimiwa. His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Ms. Doreen Bogdan Martin, Secretary General, International Telecommunications Union. And Mr. Strive Masiwa, Founder and Executive Chairman, Econet Group. Welcome. Over to you, Sanait.
Thank you, Zain. Good morning. It's a wonderful pleasure to be here at the Global AI Summit, and welcome to our esteemed panelists. Probably I will start out, by doing a little bit of scene setting. We know that artificial intelligence is the heart of the fourth industrial revolution, reshaping economies, redefining power, and rewriting the rules of progress. We heard from the two presidents this morning about the potential for so much progress, and President Kagame, you've done an excellent job reframing our panel. What are the things we need to focus on if we want to achieve and harness this progress? So in addition to the three priorities that are outlined, that I hope when we finish this panel, we have shaped some ideas around how do we turn AI's potential into prosperity. How do we shift the narrative that we hear, much like the earlier days of HIV treatment, that AI is a luxury for Africa cannot afford, rather than a powerful tool we cannot afford to ignore? How do we make sure Africa's future is built by design and not by default? And are we ready to seize this moment, or is it going to pass us? How do we show up and lead in the age of AI? And as President Faure said, we all don't have to be AI experts to do this. So we are really already seeing how AI can improve healthcare. We are seeing early diagnostics, chatbots. In my specialty, we've been using AI-enabled telemedicine for managed self-health care for women. We're optimizing supply chain, and we heard in agriculture, critical use from increasing yields through smart technology tool and other things. So, with that in mind, I'm going to start going into concrete things. And the Honorable Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, I want to start with you. I hope today the collective insight will leave us better than where we were when we started the session. But Kenya is an excellent example. It's one of the largest producers of renewable energy, not just in Africa, but for the world. You're also building data centers in Kenya to address shortage of computing infrastructures. And as energy is becoming a critical infrastructure to power the data centers in the future, we would love to hear your perspective on the interventions required to ensure Africa gains enough computing infrastructure to power its AI. To you, Excellency.
Thank you. First of all, let me just take a minute to acknowledge His Excellency Paul Kagame and to appreciate his efforts in having this very critical AI summit in Kigali. I also want to appreciate the President of the Republic of Togo for also present. Now, I will first of all just highlight that energy, reliable energy, clean energy is extremely critical for us to advance, particularly in the area of technology, and indeed in a lot of the things that Africa ought to do. In Kenya, our grid is about 93% green energy, renewable energy today. And it would be important that we all factor in that so that we have clean energy, green energy as we go forward. I also want to state that one of the things that we are doing as we look at AI is to be able to establish data centers that are also powered by green energy. And there's a very serious conversation that is already taking place in Kenya, and hopefully we shall be able to have this. And this is happening around Naivasha area, where we are promoting geothermal energy as something that can lead us to achieve this particular thing of having reliable energy. But we need to also look broadly on how we invest in the energy sector, because we have made it quite expensive, in my view, for people to invest in the energy sector on the continent. We need to look at it critically. What incentives can we give so that those who want to come in, particularly on solar energy, wind energy, hydro can be very expensive and protracted, but it would be something good if we can also have it, so that we can accelerate the production of, expand our capacity in energy to be able to anchor the artificial intelligence that we are looking at. So that, to me, becomes very, very critical. And policymakers on the continent need to look at this specific area very, very critically. The other thing that I would then quickly point out is that we need to quickly re-engineer our own thoughts on the continent. Our two heads of state have spoken on the need for health, improved health infrastructure, agriculture, and so forth, especially with the AI. I think as a continent, we need to not allow ourselves to be driven by fear. Fear should not drive us out of town on this agenda of artificial intelligence. We need to work closely, coordinate as a continent, and make sure that we direct resources to upgrade our capacity in artificial intelligence and in technology as a whole. I think I'll stop there for now.
Excellent. Thank you, Excellency. Great points. I think this is a really nice segue around the integration and the continental work, and also building on what President Kagame was saying, the need to accelerate continental integration would be a good lead for you, AU Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. Also, congratulations on your recent election to the AU Chairperson position. We know that the African Union recently approved the AU Continental Strategy for Artificial Intelligence. It provides really clear policy guidelines for Africa's journey to adopt AI. But I would love to hear from you about the mechanisms that you have to support most African countries that are not ready for this to create their own AI policy and enabling environment.
Merci. D'abord, permettez-moi de reconnaître la présence.
Thank you very much. I would like to first and foremost thank His Excellency, the President Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, and His Excellency the President of the Republic of Togo, Mr. Faure Gnassingbé. And I'd like to express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Kagame for inviting us to this extremely important summit. I also wish to congratulate his efforts, who a few years ago had actually invited us to take part in Smart Africa. He was the precursor of this initiative, which has now moved forward, and he's inviting us today for this global summit on artificial intelligence, and I wish to sincerely congratulate him for his leadership. The African Union did adopt a number of policy frameworks. In 2020, there was a strategy for the development of artificial intelligence, and the Commission was mandated to establish a 5-year plan which comprises of 2 phases, one between 2025 and 2026 to establish a structural governance of artificial intelligence on the continent, resource mobilization, and then the second phase from 2028 to 2030, which should be dedicated to the implementation of projects that will have been identified, and in 2027 we'll proceed with a review, midterm review. And this morning someone mentioned that the sovereignty of AI on the continent was a myth, and I'd like to refute the statement. And as indicated His Excellency Faure Gnassingbé, we need to move forward to make sure that the African continent adopts these development policies, and particularly in regards to AI development with the available resources. It is evident that in order to finance young startups and harmonize rules and regulations in our countries, some policies must be established, and we can mobilize these resources. As an example, the US invests $285 billion in AI, and this on an annual basis. In China, it is $95 billion. So what we need on the continent is to mobilize financial resources, and we'll need to find innovative methods to mobilize those resources. And I must congratulate the creation of a fund for the digital transformation, and the creation of a fund for the AI, which should stem from this summit, that will go towards the development of AI on the continent. An aspect that I believe is important is that the Commission has developed partnerships, and we cannot do away with partnerships, especially when it comes to technology transfer and knowledge transfer. And the Commission has established a partnership on the continent with the African Development Bank, and particularly in regard to the Coding for Development, which is the development of literacy when it comes to AI on the continent. Our youth must be able to develop startups in that regard, and these competences, these skills which must be acquired. And I believe the minister in charge of the ICT in Rwanda did mention that we only count for about 2 to 3% of skills pertaining to AI on the continent. So there's still a lot to be done. However, the Commission does understand the challenge, but in regards to this challenge, there are regulatory frameworks which do exist, and we shall do our level best to mobilize resources and create new partnerships and make sure that the youth in Africa be tooled to develop its own enterprises, its own startups pertaining to AI. And I will stop here for now. Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Doreen, Secretary General of ITU, we're really pleased to have you here. The ITU has been a really long time reliable partner in the digital transformation of Africa. It's also been a key player in shaping AI governance globally. We would love to hear from you. How do you see AI global governance is going to evolve, and how do we ensure developing countries are not left behind or they're not an afterthought?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sanait, and Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Delighted to be back in Kigali, and I must say I feel sort of a sense of nostalgia sitting on this stage and thinking back a couple of years ago when we hosted the World Telecommunications Development Conference in 2022. And we actually had a good debate about artificial intelligence and about the links that artificial intelligence had towards sustainable development. I think at the time, little did we know, a few months later, generative AI would sort of take the world by storm. But it's important to look back and reflect on how far we have come. And I think just to quickly respond also to your question about, are we ready? I think, as we've heard from my previous panelists, also from the panel this morning, we know what we have to do. I think we have all of the elements. We just have to do it. And I think that's also why this summit is so important. There are lots of governance discussions happening. Last year, the Secretary General of the United Nations launched his high-level advisory body report, which showed that 118 countries were not part of any global governance discussion. ITU studies also showed that about 85% of countries did not have an AI policy. What we discussed yesterday in the context of our Smart Africa Steering Committee, today we have about 17 countries in the region in Africa that have policies. That's progress. And I think this sort of proliferation of governance discussions, on the one hand, it can lead to fragmentation, but on the other hand, I think it's important that we're seeing streams come across these different discussions. This morning, we heard from Her Excellency Commissioner Larato about the African Union AI strategy, and I think when we look to those common elements, we see calls for transparency, we see calls for accountability, the need for artificial intelligence to be human and people-centered, the need to tackle biases, which is so important, the need to develop AI responsibly and safely, obviously, and also the points about data governance. So I think it's important that a lot of these discussions, even though they may not be globally inclusive, they're picking up on the same elements. At the ITU, we have an annual summit called the AI for Good Global Dialogue. I think that's an opportunity to bring these discussions together. We also have the Secretary General of the UN's initiatives that are being discussed actually this week in New York to facilitate a global dialogue. And so those kinds of discussions are critical as we chart the future of artificial intelligence. I think we also need to focus on solutions, and so I'm very happy that we're discussing solutions here over the next 2 days. We also have to tackle that talent and skills gap, as we've heard from previous speakers, and we need to start to build some common language around things like, well, of course, governance, but also on technical standards and also what we mean by inclusive innovation. I think picking up on what Minister Paula said before, trying to find that balance between regulatory approaches and letting innovation flourish.
Thank you, Doreen. I couldn't think of a better segue from you to my brother, Strive Masiwa, founder and executive chairman of Econet Group. Strive is the poster child of solutions and implementation. So this is a really good transition to go to Strive and talk about the infrastructure investments needed for the continent to thrive in AI. We know that the infrastructure investments that we have right now are not there yet to build a strong Africa digital economy. So what is your opinion on how Africa could accelerate investments in AI infrastructure, Strive?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. President, for agreeing to host this important African summit. It's amazing how Rwanda is always at the forefront and cutting edge of driving Africa forward. Thank you for that. And obviously, as co-chair of the summit and with the World Economic Forum responsibilities that I have for AI in Africa, I'm really pleased to see so many colleagues from Africa's nascent AI ecosystem here, particularly the entrepreneurs, of which I am an older member. Look, the issue of digital infrastructure is what we do as a business. We build data centers. We've been building data centers across Africa for the last decade. We built the digital infrastructure around fiber cables. Our fiber network extends throughout this continent. We have put in more than 120,000 kilometers of fiber interconnecting the African continent. We've been working on AI in our company now for 6 or 7 years. We have a lot of people working on AI. And clearly, our main focus at the moment is the compute side. And now I'm pleased to say that I visited NVIDIA last week, where we signed with NVIDIA the delivery contracts for our first GPUs onto the African continent. As a statement said, our first shipment of more than 3,000 GPUs will be arriving in South Africa next month, and they will be installed and ready for service by the end of June. Thereafter, we intend to install another 10,000 units across 5 sites in our existing infrastructure. So we're not having to build new data centers. We've been building these already. The ones in South Africa are ready. Kenya, I was with the minister this morning. Our first data center on the African continent was in Kenya. So we are very pleased that we will be building in Kenya this year, and we also will build in Egypt this year. So we hope this compute capacity answers the question, where will Africa get its compute? From its entrepreneurs. That's our job. We build. We go out, we raise the money, we find the partners, and we're very pleased with our partnership with NVIDIA, with Google, with Microsoft, and all the partners involved in this. So really, the next stage is for our entrepreneurs to step forward, for the developers to come forward and to begin to use this compute. Our researchers in the universities. One of the most exciting things I hope we will be talking about here is work around large language models in African languages. We have already assembled our work on this. I'm pleased to say that Minister Paula and myself will be announcing something on Kinyarwanda, and we are building a large language model for that. But we intend to build large language models for all of Africa's languages. We are starting on Swahili. So, yeah, the work has started. Let's get on with it.
Bravo. So maybe I will stick with you, Strive, and I will come counterclockwise. The disruptive nature of AI is something everyone is worried about, let alone a continent like Africa with a large youth population. Even in the Western world, young people who make college choices are worried, am I going to come out and then my job is going to be irrelevant, or am I going to be replaced by AI? So what's your message to African youth that are in the room as well as virtually, what are the investments they need to make, what are the investments their leaders need to make so that we can adapt to the new future?
Look, every great technology is going to be disruptive. I can't imagine what the young people thought about when the printing press was created. You know, the priests complained that they would run out of work. I don't know. But what I can say seriously is this. We haven't even begun to fully appreciate the emergence of this age. I gave an example to young people the other day in trying to explain my role. I said, you know, imagine if we were 100 years ago and there was no electricity. And you just attended an event by Mr. Edison in which he showed the light bulb and the emergence of electricity. And you met him the following day and you said, Mr. Edison, what does this mean? What is going to be the implication of electricity? He would, even as brilliant as he was, he would have told you, I really don't know where this is taking us. And let me tell you, for the Edisons of this day, the Jensen Huangs and others, they will tell you, we do not know where this is taking us. It is profound. It will touch everything. That's all we could say. But there's a lot we know we can do. Our education systems of reading and writing are now obsolete. We need to start there. We will not have a place at this table if our kids can't do maths and they can't code and they don't do science in school. And we keep wanting to speak French and English. No, sir. We have to go back and focus fundamentally in the education system. That's where we start. Okay? Our young people, we have to skill them. We can be hustlers, yes, and we're a continent of hustlers. But a hustler with no skills in the age of AI will sleep hungry. Okay? We need to skill them. And the tools are there right now. It's not tomorrow. We can skill millions of our kids for the age of AI.
Terrific. There was a second component of that question about what leaders can do, and since we have a couple of heads of state in the room, as well as various other leaders, what would you say to leaders, much like you did to young people? Strive, continuing. No. I defer. The leaders are here. And the fact that they have gathered us here, look, we're not doing this 10 years after the AI revolution. As Jensen Huang said to me last week when we signed that contract, he says, good, you harassed me saying, where is Africa's GPUs? He says, now you've got them, we're all on ground zero. Do we agree? I said, yes, we're all on ground zero. From here, it's up to us what we do with this. But I cannot overemphasize the need for our leaders to create an ecosystem for investment. Because people like me stepping forward
and going out to raise billions of dollars to buy these chips. We can only go to where it is investor friendly. Okay? We won't come back and tell you your investment environment doesn't work. We just walk away. So we've got to talk to each other. You've got to listen to what we feel we need to comfortably raise the capital to do this.
Terrific. You answered it. Thank you. Doreen, I'm going to come back to you. And I think building on what we were talking about earlier, maybe if you can say a little bit more, you started touching onto it, but what are the things international organizations like ITU can help to bridge the digital divide and ensure that African nations are going to equally benefit from the AI revolution, and not only those on the other side of the ocean?
Thank you. This morning, Minister Tajani mentioned that youth are the superpower. I would add that connectivity is another superpower, and if you put the two together, the potential is unimaginable. But the reality, and this comes, Commissioner Dorato, to your point about advancing inequalities, AI will advance inequalities if we do not close the digital gap. 38% of Africa is connected to the internet. We have 2.6 billion people in the world not connected totally. It will cost $1.6 trillion to connect the unconnected, and President Kagame, you mentioned this as well. We need to focus on digital infrastructure. We have to invest in digital infrastructure and strive. Coming to your point, we have to have those ecosystems in place for investment. And so that means when it comes to the leaders, we also have to, and I see Claver in the room, we have to have the political will, our ECA Executive Secretary, we have to ensure that the political will is there and that the understanding of the impact of digital for the country, for the region, is understood and the investments are made. So the investment is absolutely critical. We often say that the planet is covered by a 3G or 4G mobile signal, yet we still have 2.6 billion unconnected. So there's also other issues that we have to invest in. Skilling was covered by Strive and others. We have to invest in digital skilling, in AI skilling. We have a new AI skilling coalition. We also have to invest in bringing the cost down. Smartphones are often prohibitively expensive for those that can truly benefit. So we have big challenges around affordability of services, affordability of devices. We also have to invest in safety, making sure that our digital space, artificial intelligence, is also safe. So focusing on those different variables, I think, can help us to have a robust digital ecosystem, and we have to get there. Also the power piece, as you mentioned, investing in the power to compute, making sure that that potential is here in the region.
Terrific. Thank you. Mahmoud, if I can come back to you. Again, I'm going to go back to accelerating our ability for free trade in this continent. So how is AU championing a common market? And how can this common market fuel the AI economy to ensure the continent is not left behind?
Les textes existent. Ce matin, le secrétaire exécutif de la ZLECA.
We have text. The executive secretary of FCTA say the protocol for digital economy has already been put in place for 2025, but they are still hesitant to say in English.
Right now, with regard to digital trade, there are tariffs on the transfer of data. There are tariffs also on the transfer of resources when it comes to creating startups. We need to lift those tariffs. There are a number of prerequisites that also he put forward. I'm quoting him. He put the stakes very high. He said that there is a clear nexus between development, technology, integration. So we really have to scale up investments in the technology sector. Now, 2 years ago, there was a conference in Dakar on developing the African infrastructure through the program we call PIDA. And that conference was quite successful, fostering and mobilizing enough resources for many cross-border projects. This year, in October, President Lourenço of Angola is also planning to host a conference on how to foster and mobilize resources for infrastructure. This conference will take place in October. So it's critical to really have that kind of amount of resources for our infrastructure. So infrastructure is a prerequisite. Of course, regulations and norms and standards are very important, but also we need to understand that investing in corridors which can link technological hubs from Kigali to Nairobi, or from Dakar to Nairobi, or from Cairo to Cape Town. I think these corridors have to be put in place. That's why I think that could channel not only technology, exchange of expertise, but also it could channel resources for different hubs and scale up our investments in those technologies. So just to remind us all here that there are a lot of deficiencies when it comes to the human power, the human resources, the talents. This is a reality nobody can contest. That's why investing in our human resources is critical. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Maybe that's a really nice segue to come to you, Excellency, and it's absolutely true. We have about 70% of Africa's population is under 30, and yet we contribute only about 5% of the AI workforce. So that's really, that's the stark reality, as the AU chairperson put it. That said, we have a serious advantage. You know, the Africa's demographic dividend, a young, tech-savvy population. We have increased mobile penetration, and really the chance to build ethical AI that is relevant to our context. But we also heard about the shortage in Kenya, given that it's leading in these data centers and it's leading in green energy. If you can say maybe a little bit more how Africa can contribute to the AI talent pool globally. We cannot compete without a critical mass of talent, as we've heard from the panelists. So hearing your perspective on how, we know the shortage, but what are the pathways to skilling up young people at scale to create the researchers, the innovators, the implementers that we need to catalyze both and leverage AI, but also create a job opportunity for young people?
Thank you. I think I'll just pick up from where Strive left on this. Our investment in education becomes extremely critical. Let me give you an example. In Kenya's budgetary framework today, we are spending close to 600 billion Kenya shillings. In fact, it takes the largest component of our budget. But the fundamental issue is that, are we focusing in the right places? The budget may be expansive, but are we targeting it where it should be? So I think that becomes a critical area. And in Kenya, for instance, we have a program which focuses on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we are investing heavily in this area, but we could do more. And I believe across the continent that needs to be done, because that is where you plant the right seed at the right time, and we start tooling our young people from there, because we have a massive reservoir, as you say, and we need to equip them. The other thing that I have to really speak to is that with that demographic arrangement that we have seen that you're not going to get the young people back to agriculture unless you have a sweetener, and the sweetener is technology.
Excellent.
And that speaks to so many other areas as well. We launched a program in Kenya of having 100,000 community health workers. These are young people. Now, when you talk to them, they say they want to be tooled, not with the basic issues as well, but they want technology so that they can provide better service to the people. So clearly, we must appreciate that if we are to get our young people fully involved, then we must tool them and we must invest in affordable gadgets for them. That, I think, is extremely critical. Let me just digress and weigh in a little on something else that has been canvassed by the other panelists. And this is how we can really accelerate investment in this area. We have to go back to the very basics. As governments, we do not have enough resources to drive this agenda. We must loosen up and allow the private sector to thrive in all our economies. This is very, very essential. So the policy decisions must be accelerated. I'm sure most of the people in this room maybe woke up to this very interesting debate. Everybody is wondering which country has been hit by a tariff or not hit by which tariff in this tariff battle. But even as we spend so much time concentrating on the pronouncements that may be coming out from the West, more specifically Washington at this point in time, let us also just reflect. What about ourselves as African countries? What are we doing to loosen our own tariff barriers? That is the question that we need to look at. We should create a situation where we are seamless, and that is where the African Union becomes very, very helpful to us and very strategic, so that we have a holistic policy. There may be variations because of specific requirements in each country, but we must have an alignment within the African Union framework that can allow us to move and accelerate a lot of these issues. In fact, I think in this room I've seen Mr. Mene of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area somewhere. And I think maybe this is something he should pick up when he's making his comments. What do we do to make sure that that connectivity is not an inhibition? Why should Kenya obstruct Tanzania to accelerate its connectivity, or vice versa? These are the basic questions that we need to resolve if we are going to make AI work for us. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you. There's a lot I want to react to, but President Kagame, I have heard your advice about staying away from politics, so I will not say more about tariffs or otherwise. But I think there is also a lot to be said around what are the things we could do within this continent, leveraging countries that have moved farther ahead in this journey, not just cross-border collaboration, but opportunity for our learners. In the last 4 or 5 years, when I see what Rwanda has enabled with free visa policy, with really state-of-the-art academic institutions that allow African learners to come and be in a place where they're not second-class citizens. So if we start really investing in these institutions that are continental, that allow our young talent to not only acquire digitally enabled education, but also link them to workforce, I think we can make significant progress, and I couldn't agree more that the AU and its agencies can play a substantial role in accelerating that progress. I know we are sort of coming down on time, so what I would like to do is maybe sort of a rapid fire question. If you want to expand on that, feel free. Strive, I will start with you. And if you were to have AI automate one activity for you or one thing, what would that be? And I think we can just come across and answer that question.
It's too early to tell, to be honest. I don't see AI as automating things. It is about augmenting and amplifying the human capabilities. So we shouldn't fear this thing. But let me just say one thing, if I may, quickly. When we open up these 5 compute centers, they are for the entire continent. In fact, we've established it as what you call GPU as a service. So if a young researcher who wants to use access to a supercomputer to work on an app in Togo or in Accra, they will access our compute capacity, paying whatever little they can. We've designed it almost thinking about how we in Africa would want to do it. So it's not about big research universities. No, the future comes from young people building apps, solutions, small businesses every day across this continent using AI. They are the digital natives. We just have to give them the ability to do what they do best.
So we've been using AI to help us map and connect schools. So we've been using AI and satellite imagery, and I think what I would like to see is to be able to use AI to sort of more precisely locate connectivity gaps, and then to also help us be able to understand the investment needed to close those gaps. We have something called Partner to Connect, which is this global coalition that was also launched on this stage. If we could take those commitments and those pledges and actually then link them back to the connectivity gaps, so we start to close the digital gap using AI.
Terrific.
Thank you. I will also underline the fact that digital literacy is really critical and very important. At the African Union Commission level, we are registering the centers of excellence that we find across the continent. I know that they are receiving a lot of students. I have information about the Dakar Institute of Technology, which is well known for delivering very good training in terms of AI skills and capabilities here in Rwanda. I will insist on the fact that the African Union Commission will focus on that digital literacy and have a full catalog of those centers of excellence so that we can dispatch as many African students as we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Excellency, get to make the last comment.
Well, thank you. If AI can make us food secure,
food security.
in the continent, I think that would be extremely important. Focusing on food security and at the same time help for the people in this continent. I think that would be the greatest achievement that we can come across. Thank you.
Absolutely, and there is no better way than to end this panel talking about food security and health that are linked. We all know that we are in the middle of a global upheaval. It is also an incredible moment for Africa to seize this opportunity. We don't see AI as something that is parallel or we do in sequencing. It is going to be cross-cutting across everything we do, and certainly in the health sector, and given the substantial foreign aid cuts countries have faced in a very acute manner, we absolutely hope to leverage technology, to leverage digitalization, AI, to prioritize and hopefully focus on improving and strengthening our primary health care, get rid of inefficiencies, and really be able to create client-patient centered quality healthcare. So thank you, excellent panelists, for this wonderful, insightful session. And this concludes our session. Thank you very much.